Hi everyone, welcome back. Thanks for joining us today. We've got a brand new story to share with you, so let's begin. My name is Kevin, and up until recently, I was a married man. Less than a year ago, I stood in front of family and friends, looking into the eyes of the woman I thought I would spend the rest of my life with. I believed we were building something solid, something that would last. But marriage isn't just about love, it's about choices, responsibilities, and the willingness to grow together. And that's where things started to go wrong for us. When we got married, I assumed we were both ready to step into a new phase, one where we prioritized our home, our commitment, and our future. But as the months went by, I started noticing something. For Nora, marriage didn't mean the party was over. She still wanted girls' nights, weekend trips, and late-night outings, just like when she was single. At first, I tried to be understanding. I told myself she just needed time to adjust. I didn't want to be the kind of husband who controlled his wife or told her what she could and couldn't do. But the more I ignored it, the more I realized that this wasn't a phase. This was who she was. When I realized I had been lying to myself all along, everything changed for me. I remember exactly how I met Nora. It was a Friday night, and I had just wrapped up one of those days at work that made you question why you even bother. I was exhausted, mentally drained, and just wanted to clear my head. So, instead of heading straight home, I decided to stop by a nightclub because I needed a drink and some background noise to drown out my thoughts. The place was buzzing with energy, loud music, flashing lights, people dancing without a care in the world. But in the middle of all that chaos, I noticed her. She was sitting alone at the bar, stirring her drink absent-mindedly, looking like someone who had a lot on her mind. She was beautiful, undeniably so. But what really caught my attention wasn't just her looks. It was the way she seemed detached from everything around her. I wasn't planning to start a conversation, but something about her expression made me pause. So, I leaned in and said some random joke. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it worked. She looked up at me, and for the first time that night, she smiled. That's how it started. One joke turned into a conversation, and before I knew it, we were talking like two old friends. We talked about everything, work, life, and how sometimes you find yourself in places you don't really want to be. She told me she had come out with friends, but ended up alone when they got caught up in their own fun. She didn't seem eager to leave, though, and I didn't mind keeping her company. By the time the night was over, we had exchanged numbers. But that was it. I didn't even think much of it at the time. It was just a good conversation with someone who, for whatever reason, felt like talking. Over the next few months, we stayed in touch casually. A text here, a quick call there. Nothing too deep, just light conversations. Then one evening, I invited her over to my place. Just a casual hangout. But that's when things started shifting. One visit turned into another, and before we knew it, we were seeing each other regularly. It wasn't a love at first sight kind of thing, but we did get into a relationship. At first, everything seemed fine. But one thing I noticed early on was how much she loved being around people. She always knew someone who was hosting a party, planning a trip, or organizing a social gathering. She was a social butterfly, the kind of person who thrived on being in the mix. It was exciting at first. I didn't want to be the guy who tells a woman what she can or can't do, so I never said anything about it. I figured it was just a phase, something she would eventually grow out of, especially if things got serious between us. A year into dating, I proposed. She said yes, and 3 months later, we were married. At first, everything seemed fine. The wedding was behind us, and we had settled into what felt like a normal routine. Waking up together, eating meals together, planning our future, just regular married life. But as the months went by, I started noticing patterns. Nora wasn't adjusting to marriage the way I thought she would. She was still very much in party mode. It wasn't just an occasional night out with friends. There was always a reason to be somewhere. A birthday, a girls' night, a quick meetup that somehow turned into an entire night out. I kept thinking, okay, maybe she just needs time to adjust. I mean, she had a different lifestyle before we got married, and habits don't change overnight. I wanted to be patient. I wanted to trust that she would slow down on her own. But she didn't. Every week, there was something. She would get texts from friends about a party, and suddenly she was in front of the mirror, doing her makeup. If it wasn't a nightclub, it was a lounge. If it wasn't a lounge, it was a private gathering. And every time I asked why she needed to go, her response was always the same: it's just a casual hangout, nothing serious. The problem was, it was serious to me. We were married now. I thought we were supposed to be building something together. Our home, our future. But instead, it felt like she was still living, as if she had no responsibilities. I wasn't expecting her to turn into a completely different person overnight, but I also wasn't expecting to be married to someone who acted like a single woman. I let it slide for a while and hoped she would grow out of it on her own. One night, I finally decided to say something. She was getting dressed to go out, another girl's night. Another night where I'd be sitting at home while my wife was out drinking with her friends. So I called her and said, "You're not acting like someone who's married." She stopped what she was doing and gave me a look, like I had just insulted her. Then she got defensive. She asked me what that was supposed to mean, and before I could even explain, she started listing all the ways she had already changed for me. That she wasn't doing anything wrong, and that I needed to trust her. I didn't want to fight. We were still early in our marriage, and I didn't want to create unnecessary tension. So I let it go. And for a while, it seemed like things got better. She stopped going out as much, and I assumed everything was fine. I thought we had reached an understanding, but in reality, she had just pressed pause. And when the right moment came, she would hit play again. I just didn't know that yet. I got home one Friday night, exhausted. The week had been long, and all I wanted was to eat, take a shower, and relax. As I stepped inside, the first thing I noticed was Nora standing in front of the mirror, fixing her hair. She was already dressed in a tight-fitting dress, makeup done, and heels on. For a second, I just watched her, confused. I hadn't heard anything about plans for the night. "Where are you going?" I asked, setting my bag down. She barely glanced at me as she picked up a perfume bottle and sprayed herself. "Some of my friends are in town. We're meeting up before they leave." I felt a tightness in my chest. "Not this again." "It's late, Nora. You're going out alone." That was all it took. She turned around, eyes already blazing, like she had been waiting for me to say something. "What's the problem now?" I sighed, trying to keep my voice calm. "I don't think it's right for you to be going out like this. It's almost nighttime. You didn't even tell me about this plan, and—" She cut me off with a dry laugh. "Oh, here we go again. You just can't stand the fact that I have a life outside of this house." "That's not what I'm saying," I replied, trying to keep my frustration in check. She folded her arms. "Then what are you saying?" "Because I already stopped clubbing for you. Now I can't even see my friends when they're in town? Should I just sit here and rot?" I stared at her. It was useless, because no matter how I framed it, she had already decided I was the villain. I am her husband, and she is out here acting like a single woman. In her mind, I was just trying to cage her. So I said nothing. I just watched as she picked up her purse, gave herself one last look in the mirror, and walked out the door without even saying goodbye. I sat down on the couch, rubbing my hands together. My stomach was tight, my mind restless. My head was filled with thoughts I didn't want to deal with. How did I get here? How did I end up in a marriage where my own wife acted like she was doing me a favor by staying home? I turned on the TV, hoping it would distract me. It didn't. The hours passed slowly. I checked my phone. Nothing. Midnight was approaching, and I told myself I wouldn't wait up, but my eyes stayed glued to the door. Then, just before 12 a.m., I heard the lock turn. The door opened, and there she was. Drunk. Completely out of it. She staggered as she stepped inside, struggling to take off her heels. I rushed toward her, instinct taking over. As much as I was angry, I didn't want her collapsing on the floor. I put my arm around her, guiding her toward the bedroom. She was mumbling something, half words, half laughter, but I wasn't even listening. I helped her onto the bed, and that's when I noticed it. She wasn't wearing any underwear. My eyes traveled lower, and that's when I saw it, a wet, sticky trail running down her thigh. I felt something inside me break. I didn't need to ask. I didn't need an explanation. I already knew. I sat in the living room, staring at nothing. The weight of what I had just seen was pressing down on my chest. Even if I wake her up and demand answers, she would still lie, twist the story, and somehow make me feel like I was the problem. I had seen enough of her defensiveness in the past to know how this conversation would go. She'd deny, deflect, and somehow turn this around on me. And honestly, I was too exhausted to fight. For an hour, I sat there, running through every option in my head. Do I confront her? What good would that do? Do I wait until morning and talk things out? But then what? How do you talk things out when the trust is already dead? Do I pretend I didn't see what I saw? No, that wasn't an option. The marriage had already been fragile, hanging by a thread, and tonight was the final cut. There was no fixing this. I had my answer. At exactly 5 a.m., I made my decision. I wasn't going to waste another second in a marriage that was already over. I got up, went to the bedroom, and quietly grabbed a small bag. I didn't take much, just some clothes, my wallet, my car keys, and my phone. I didn't leave a note. I didn't wake her up. There was no need for explanations. She knew. I got into my car, started the engine, and pulled out of the driveway without looking back. I didn't have a plan beyond this moment, but I knew one thing: I wasn't staying. I drove straight to my parents' house in another state. Later, I woke up to the sound of my phone vibrating against the nightstand in my old bedroom at my parents' house. I had barely slept. The screen lit up with Nora's name. I checked the time. It was 10 a.m. That's probably when she woke up, or that's when she finally realized I was gone. The calls kept coming, one after the other. I stared at the screen, letting it ring, waiting to see if she'd leave a message, and if she'd even acknowledge what she had done. But there was nothing. By the 7th or 8th call, I picked up. I didn't say hello. I didn't ask why she was calling. I didn't give her the chance to make this into something it wasn't. Our marriage is over. That was all I said. She went silent for a second. Then came the fake shock. What? Kevin, what are you talking about? She tried every trick in the book. First, she accused me of overreacting. Kevin, I don't know what you think happened, but you're blowing this way out of proportion. Then, she flipped around, making it about control. This is what you wanted, isn't it? You never wanted me to have my own life. You just wanted an excuse to leave. And then came the guilt trip. So that's it? You're not even going to try? You're just going to throw our marriage away over one night. That's when it hit me. She genuinely didn't believe she had done anything wrong. That was the moment I realized the depth of my mistake. I had married someone who never saw marriage the same way I did. All right, let's talk about what I learned from this whole mess. If you take anything away from my story, let it be this: who you marry matters more than marriage itself. I used to think that once you got married, everything would fall into place. That as long as you loved each other, you'd figure things out along the way. But that's not true. Marriage is just a title. It doesn't magically fix problems or change people. If you marry someone who isn't ready to be a spouse, you're just signing up for pain. And trust me, I learned that the hard way. Another big lesson? Marriage doesn't change people, commitment does. If someone wasn't serious about settling down before marriage, they wouldn't suddenly become serious after. I thought Nora would naturally slow down on partying and adjust to being a wife. I assumed she would change because marriage requires change. But people don't change just because you put a ring on their finger. They only change when they want to. And if they don't want to, there's nothing you can do about it. And then there's this: love is not enough. We're told that love conquers all, and that as long as two people love each other, they can make it work. That's a lie. Love alone doesn't make a good marriage. Compatibility, values, and lifestyle choices do. You can love someone and still be completely wrong for each other. I loved Nora, but our lifestyles didn't match. Our views on marriage didn't align. She wanted freedom, and I wanted stability. And when two people want completely different things, love won't save the relationship. Another lesson that I wish I had taken seriously: never ignore red flags, no matter how small. They always lead to something bigger. I saw signs early on: her love for nightlife, her need to always be at parties, her unwillingness to slow down even after we got serious. But I ignored them. I told myself it wasn't a big deal. I convinced myself she would grow out of it. But red flags don't disappear. They just become harder to ignore until they explode in your face. And finally, this is the most important thing I've learned. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. Don't waste time trying to change them. Don't make excuses. Don't convince yourself that they'll become what you want them to be. If a person's actions don't match what you need in a partner, don't stay hoping they'll eventually get it right. They won't. I thought Nora would evolve into a more responsible wife over time, but the truth was, she was exactly who she wanted to be. And I was the one who made the mistake of thinking otherwise. So, if you're in a situation like mine, don't ignore the signs. Don't waste years trying to fix someone who doesn't want to change. I said nothing and left, and it was the best decision I ever made. If you like this story, make sure to like the video and share it with someone who needs to hear this.